the last best place is probably the last place you'd expect to see this. Dispensaries and grow houses dotting Montana's stunning landscape. This is in Ruby Red, Montana, where last year 57% of voters moved to legalize recreational marijuana. To give you an idea, 2 years before, President Donald Trump received that same share in this state. Today, 22 states and the District of Columbia have legal access to cannabis. But the lack of federal legislation is leaving small dispensary owners with big problems.
This is one of the highest testing strains in Montana.
Elliot Lindsay is the owner of Bozeman-based dispensary Grizzly Pine.
We need to move past the conversation about whether or not cannabis exists or should exist and move towards a regulated industry that is normal.
Even legal cannabis businesses are anything but normal. Every week, Elliot drives hours in an unmarked van to deposit cash at one of the few banks willing to work with him. As a dispensary owner, he can't access most major financial institutions or take credit cards, since selling marijuana is still against federal law.
We have been fortunate enough to find a local credit union.
Elliot's careful not to ruin his relationship with a local bank that keeps his business compliant with the law. Is there anything else that you as a cannabis business owner have to deal with that other businesses don't?
Oh, man. Yeah, there's a lot that we have to do. Yeah, there's a laundry list.
You said you had a peach card, correct?
Operating a legal dispensary is expensive, even after purchasing a license.
I don't know that there's a whole lot of consumer-based businesses where you would be required to wear a badge like this one.
Owners could face hefty fines for failing to follow strict rules amid unscheduled inspections from state authorities. Since cannabis is still a Schedule I drug, legal dispensary owners don't qualify for tax exemptions like traditional businesses. Gallatin County Sheriff Dan Springer backs federal legislation that would give marijuana businesses access to banking services.
I will say it's confusing when you have a federal statute, that creates it as a crime or doesn't clear it. And then you have state laws that are different than federal laws.
Safe Banking's biggest advocates in this state say they don't support legalizing marijuana. But now that voters chose to do it, they say it's a public safety issue not to take action. That includes Montana's Republican senator, now leading the charge in Washington on the bipartisan bill.
We want to help law enforcement. This is about making our communities safer by allowing these businesses access to our banks.
Working with top Democrats on perhaps the biggest marijuana reform bill that could pass this year.
So if we're going to have businesses doing this, then let's treat them as businesses and not as drug dealers.
Julie, I got two questions for you. One is small Montana politics question, and I'll do that second. But the big question is, the law they're seeking to pass here, is it creating a workaround the issue of marijuana being a Schedule I drug, or are they actually going to reschedule it?
No, this has nothing to do with descheduling the drug, and that's one of the big issues from basically hamstringing Congress from going even further. Safe banking is essentially just a public safety bill, but it's one that would essentially remove any penalties or red tape around big banks from working with cannabis businesses, and it makes that process more streamlined.
And in politics, sometimes who gets credit for a bill matters more sometimes than whether the bill gets passed. I have understood there's a little bit of a rivalry between Daines and Tester about who would get credit for this, and it actually could blow the deal up. What's going on?
That's super interesting because actually this week, totally unrelated, but the Senate failed to pass a research bill that was sponsored by Senator Tester that would essentially direct the VAs to to do research on medicinal cannabis and whether that would affect veterans positively in terms of PTSD and other issues. That bill failed. Senator Daines voted against it, and that was viewed as a major setback from the marijuana advocates and that industry on what can actually pass in the future. So super interesting question there, Chuck.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, I think, a little 2024 campaign politics going on there. Julie Tsirkin with some terrific reporting there. Julie, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.